Second Maimer, Aleph. The days of Purim, says the Megillah, are Niskarim, remembered, V'nasim, and they are done, B'chol Doividar, in every generation, in every mishpacha, every medina, and every city. What does that mean? When the Megillah tells us that the days of Purim are not just remembered, we don't just commemorate what happened, they are nasim, they are done in every generation, every city, every you know what it means? It means Zakta NESIVAS SHALOM b'chol dor, in every generation. Yeredes ha'orim miyuchedes shel Purim, a special light of Purim comes down to us lefi tzorech hador, according to the needs of the generation, and it v'chein b'chol mishpacha u'mishpacha, medina u'medina, ir v'ir. Purim is not something that just happened years ago. Purim has a light that affects us, and if we learn how to tap into it, we will become different people. First, we have to understand, what is this thing, Purim? And it's fascinating because when we look around Purim, we see people getting drunk, people being very happy, people giving gifts. It seems like a very frivolous, light holiday. By the time we've finished understanding the depth of Purim, you're going to realize that all of that is like the superficial level of Purim. There's such depth that can change our entire lives. Rachmana litzlan, some people, their attitude towards Purim is like Rachmana litzlan, lahavdil, elef havdalis, lahavdil, like Halloween. Halloween, the goyim dress up, and we dress up on Purim. We dress up, we drink, it's lightheaded, it's very light, and that is such a mistake that people make about Purim. You know how different Purim is? Listen to this. The Arizal says that the light of Purim is a light that we don't even have on Shabbos or on YOMTOV. Now, I'm sure you bought CPR, Resuscitation for Your Soul, from Art Scroll, that I wrote with Reb Zechariah Fruchthandler. I'm sure you bought that, based on the NESIVAS SHALOM on Shabbos. And I'm sure you understand that Shabbos is everything. Shabbos decides who's a Yid and who has a din of a guy. Shabbos is everything. Shabbos is the greatest light. All the blessings that we have from above and spiritual and below and gashmias. Everything is totally in Shabbos. Shabbos is everything. And YOMTOV, Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, unbelievable holiness. And yet the Arizal says that the light of Purim is a light you don't even have on Shabbos. You don't even have on YOMTOV. So if you ask somebody, say, what's Purim? Yeah, you have a good time. Tell them this Arizal. And you'll see their face change. Whoa, I didn't know this. The Medrash says that after Mashiach comes, all of the festivals are going to be batal. They're going to be annulled. V'yimei ha'purim lo yiyu niftalim. Says the Medrash, no, Purim is going to continue going. How do you know that? Because the Pasuk says, V'yimei ha'purim lo yavru mitoich ha'yehudim. V'zichram lo yasuf mizaram. It's never going to become batal. It's never going to become annulled. It has a strength, an everlasting strength of light, of spiritual energy that's even longer than any of the other YOMTOVim. That's what the Medrash says. So we have to understand that, like, what's going on over here? Even more. The Zohar HaKadosh, which we said in the last Maimer also, the Zohar HaKadosh says, Purim is called Al Shem Yom HaKippurim. And he compares Purim and Yom Kippur. And the Heilige Rishonah that we had also in the last Maimer, said on the Divrei HaZohar that actually, when you're comparing Purim to Yom Kippur, actually Purim is greater than Yom Kippur. Because mi nitla b'mi, katan nitla b'gadol. If I tell you this guy plays basketball like Michael Jordan, whenever you compare something to something else, it's because the other thing is greater. Yom Kippur is Yom Kippurim. It's a day like Purim. So according to these Chazals, it's telling us that that's even greater than Yom Kippur. How could you imagine? The Pasuk in Yoel talks about Yom Kippur and describes the day of Yom Kippur. Ki gadol Yom Hashem. This day is great, gadol, v'noira ma'od, awesome, umi yichilenu, and who can fathom it? We cannot imagine the holiness of Yom Kippur. Achas b'shana, one day in the year. It's unbelievable what's going on in Shemayim on Yom Kippur. And you're telling me that Purim is even greater? How can this be? And then the Svarim HaKadoshim come and they say something which is even more amazing. That not only Purim is greater than Yom Kippur, but it's greater than Matan Torah. What? Do you know what happened by Matan Torah? When Hashem gave us the Torah, He opened up the 7 Rakiyim, the Shiva Rakiyim. He opened up all the heavens, and we saw Einoid Mulvadai. We saw that there's nothing besides Hashem. We heard the words Anochi Hashem Elokecha from Hashem. The highest level that a human being ever went to was by Matan Torah. And yet, B'Purim hoyse darga yoyse gedoyle me'asher b'Matan Torah. Chazal tell us that there was a darga which was even higher level on Purim. Why? Because it says, Kimu v'kiblu ha'yehudim aleihem v'alzarum. Hoder kiblu b'ratzin, the Gemara says. Now, after the miracle of Purim, Klal Yisrael accepted the Torah b'ratzin. And this was even greater than my Kabbalah Torah. As great as Kabbalah Torah was, there was a certain fear. It was very scary, and there was the Kaf Aleim Harkegigos, and we were a little bit pushed into it and threatened, and it was amazing. Of course, we did say Nasa v'Nishma, but there was other things that happened, and we were also brought to the highest level. Hashem did everything for us. He picked us up. He opened up the Shemayim, and He brought us to the highest level. It's true, like angels. But you know what's even more precious in a certain way? When the person down here, the Kleine Yidele, in B'chol Dor V'Dor, in our Dor, B'chol Ir V'Ir, B'chol Matzav U'Matzav, when that Yid comes to a place where he says, in his brokenness, in his lowness, Hada Kiblu Baratzin, I'm accepting Hashem into me, I'm accepting the Torah is the right way, I am being Makabal the Torah, it's even greater than when Hashem gives us the Torah. And the Kabbalah Torah that we had as a nation was because Hashem brought us up to the highest level. But accepting it on the lowest level has a certain chen, a certain amazingness that's even greater in a certain way. And it's hard to believe. What could be greater than Har Sinai? And then there's another fascinating halacha, which is hard to believe. Normally when you give tzedakah, you have to check out the tzedakah. You have to make sure it's a good tzedakah. Comes to Purim, kol ha-poshit yad noisen loi. You walk in the street, a guy says, tzedakah, you give and give and give. You don't check, you just give. And we know that just like we have this halacha, in Shamayim, Hashem also has this halacha. That kol ha-poshit yad, in Shamayim, you go to Hashem, anybody who says, please give me, please help me, Hashem is not medaktik. He doesn't look with a magnifying glass. Do you deserve it? Do you really need it? He gives. The halacha of kol ha-poshit yad is in Shamayim as well. Because it says in the Megillah, Vayomer HaMelech, Achashverosh said LaEsther b'Mishnah Hayayin, during this Su'udah of Purim, b'Mishnah Hayayin, Achashverosh tells Esther, Ma she'elosech, what do you want? I'll give it to you. Ma b'koshasech v'seyos, I'll do whatever you want. And that's an Eis Ratzin in Shemayim, that by our Mishnah Hayayin, our Melech says to us, what do you want? And I'll give it to you. Ma b'koshasech v'seyos. The Eibishter has a special Eis Ratzin by every Yid, by the Mishnah Yayin. And he goes ahead and he's willing to do everything for us. Shimalei Kadosh Baruch Hu Mishaloisav. So we need to understand, Purim is obviously not, it's hard to even say Halloween, a holy Halloween. It's obviously not just what we thought it was. There's something going on over here, that through the Avodah of Purim, we can reach a level greater than Yom Kippur. We can reach a level greater than Matan Torah. We can have Hashem give us kol ha-poshit noisen loi. We can have a light that infuses our life with an energy of spiritual energy that is greater than Shabbos and YOMTOV. So therefore, we need to understand, what is this day all about? Says the NESIVAS SHALOM, V'hinei, Chazal tiknu beis mayadim. Chazal were masaking these two festivals, Purim and Chanukah. Purim and Chanukah, as we said last time, are the last two things, Takonis Chazal, the last two things that Chazal were masaking. And they gave us Purim and Chanukah for one purpose. Sheye'iru li Yisrael ba'oram as kol cheshkas hagolos harucha. That it should light up Klal Yisrael's way. Each Yid should be lit up with the light of Chanukah and Purim. And it should light up every Yid as kol cheshkas hagolos harucha for throughout the long, dark exile. It's fitting to explain the difference between Purim and Chanukah. But Purim, yesh kama mitzvahs miyuchedes. We have many mitzvahs. We have Mikra Megillah, Mishleach Manos, Matanis Lavyonim, And even more than all of that, we have what Chazal told us in Megillah, Chayiv inish l'bsumi b'puraya, ad lo yada ben ar haman l'barach Mordechai, shebepurim tzichim liyas besimchum uflegas kazu. Purim, you have to be so happy, drunk with happiness. Shlemetzinu dugmasa b'chala YOMTOVim, v'afilu b'zman simchasenu, even Shalosh Regalim, even Sukkot, Man Simchasenu. It doesn't say that you have a mitzvah like this, b'puraya, to be so drunk, to go to such a level, ad lo yada. So we have these 4 mitzvahs. Again, we have Mikra Megillah, Mishloach Manos, Matanis La'avyonim, and Chayiv Inish L'Besume, to get drunk, b'puraya ad lo yada. And later on, stay tuned, and NESIVAS SHALOM has mind-blowing pshatim in what these things are, of ad lo yada, Chayiv Inish L'Besume, b'puraya, beautiful stuff coming soon. But we have these 4 things. We don't have these things. On the other hand, we see Purim, there was a gzeira to kill, annihilate all of the Jews. By Chanukah, they didn't want to kill us physically. There was just a spiritual thing. They wanted to kill us spiritually, like the communists. It wasn't Hitler. They didn't want to kill us, but they wanted us to lose our connection to Hashem. Of course, by us, we consider spiritual hashmada, spiritual destruction, even worse than killing us physically. Of course, by us, there's nothing worse than making us shmad and destroying us spiritually, that we should forget our Torah, to go against Ratzon Hashem, and to say that we have no shaykhs to Hashem. Of course, that's the worst thing for a Jew. And therefore, the Yeshua, the spiritual salvation, was even greater. So, Oibazai, if really Chanukah is a more serious problem, we had stories in the Holocaust where Jews, they danced into the gas chambers singing. They died al Kiddush Hashem. It's hard for us to understand. We're so far away from these madrigas. But everybody's going to die anyway. So to get killed physically a little earlier, in the Jewish mindset, it's horrible, it's terrible, but it's not the end of the world. You live as a Jew and they kill you. You even get to die al Kiddush Hashem. In a certain way, it's winning the jackpot. I'm not signing up so fast. But it's winning the jackpot, because we believe that there was a world before, there was Nitzchias before, there was eternity before the world was created. You're born for a little slice over here, and then after you die, you go back to Olam Haba forever. And we believe that the greater you achieve in this world, the more schar you get. It's hard to understand this schar. I mean, we understand getting a paycheck at the end of the week. We understand going to the store and using the money that you got to buy good stuff. And we understand that money is a good thing. It's hard to understand what schar in Gan Eden is, that it's forever. But we believe that. So if you get a chance to make $1 billion in ruchniistic schar, much more than you can in your lifetime, by being killed al Kiddush Hashem, even though it's of course very hard, but of course we understand that the Kedoshei Eli and the Kedoshim are in Shemayim in the highest level, and that's forever, eternity, billions of years. We can't even fathom such a thing. So in our mind, being killed al Kiddush Hashem is as bad as it is, and of course there was the holiday of Purim that we were saved from that. We don't want that. But that's not as bad as living without Hashem. Imagine if the Greeks would have been Matzliach in Chanukah time, or the communists would have been Matzliach, and then 100, 200 years later, 300 years later, would have been all these Jewish people who have no shaykhs to Hashem. For all of eternity, Klal Yisrael would have been over, annihilated. No mitzvahs, no reason to live. To us, that's worse. So, of course, it's very hard to understand, and we feel like, really, you'd rather die than as Klal Yisrael as a whole, we would rather die as Jews than live as non-Jews, with no purpose and no meaning. So therefore, this Yeshua of Chanukah, l'chayr, should have come with all of these things that we have by Purim. Why do we have it by Purim and not by Chanukah? Yesh levara inyan, she'or ha'Purim hu l'mala mikol ha'asaga. כאשר מצינו שדבר הגזירה כבר נכתב ונחתם בטבעת המלך, אשר אין להשיב. We know that when it says, everywhere in the Megillah, it says the word HaMelech, it means also HaMelech Hashem. And it says that this Gzeira was signed and sealed, B'tabas HaMelech. It also means, B'tabas Melech Malkoi Shel Olam, with Hashem. Hashem signed with his ring, he agreed to annihilate Klal Yisrael. V'lachein Omer Esther, Leich Kneises Kol HaYehudim V'tzumo Alai. And that's why Esther said, go gather all of the Jews and fast for me. Us individuals, we can't change this gzeir, it's too great. Esther said, I'm going to try to annihilate, to annul this gzeira. I need a weapon. Which weapon am I going to have? There's a certain weapon when Klal Yisrael is together. It's very rare that we're all together on one page. And that gives a koyach, a supernatural koyach. And Esther said, this gzeira is so bad, we can't do this fragmented. We have to do something that's going to allow us to have a koyach to break any gzeira. And that is one thing. All Jews come together. Hasidish, Litvish, Svardish, more frum, less frum. If we're fragmented, then only the tzaddikim can go and fight the gzeira. Esther said, no, we have a problem here. We have to bring everybody together. We have to have everybody on one page. If we don't have everybody together, we're not going to be able to be matzliach. This is something that we have to understand, that we think that I'm better than you, I'm different than you, I can't tolerate this one. We're hurting ourselves. And remember, which Jews were they in those days? There were Jews that were nishtachava l'tzelem. They went to the Suda of Achashverosh. They were on a very, very, very low level. And even so, we needed them to be a part of us. And that's why Esther says, Le'knoises kol HaYehudim. That is a power. When we gather all Jews together, and together as a unified voice, v'tzumo alai, they will fast through me to be matzliach. Ki zu gzeira she'ein b'koicham shel yechidim l'shanoisam. This gzeira was so big, it's not possible for yechidim, even yechidei skula, even the biggest tzaddikim. We can't change this on our own. Ki im al yedei shet knoises kol yehudim. B'chanukah is gzeira k'chol gzeiris. Shaloi nechtamu b'tabas hamelech v'yicholim oid lebatlo. On the other hand, Chanukah was a gzeira, it's a terrible gzeira, but it wasn't signed by Hashem. And mishum kach lo nitztarchu chashmenoi avonav lichnoises kol hayehudim elo yotzu yechidim l'melchama mebli sheyishitfu ba as kol klal Yisrael v'nitzchu b'melchama. It's fascinating. They were able to, the Kehanim, the Bnei Chashmenoi, they were very holy people, and we'll learn about that when it comes to Chanukah. They didn't go l'melchama savadon, they weren't suicide bombers, they knew that they're going to go, and they girded themselves with their weapons of mass construction. They girded themselves with bitachon, emunah, and they went out and they fought together with Hashem, as we learned. But they didn't need everybody else. There are so many gzeiros that tzaddikim, they could handle it. They didn't need knoises kol hayehudim, because it wasn't signed and sealed by Hashem. Mashe'en came b'mei Mordechai v'Esther. Nechtama hagzeira b'tabas hamelech. By Mordechai and Esther, they were up against something. They weren't up against Haman. That's the least of their problems. Achashverosh, the least of their problems. Outnumbered by goyim who were going to lynch them and kill them, the least of their problems. Mordechai and Esther could have handled that on their own. But it was Nechtama, was sealed, the Gzeira was sealed with Tabas HaMelech of Hashem. In order to change that, they needed a supernatural koyach, energy, nuclear. The koyach zeh yeshna b'klal Yisrael, sheyicholim b'koyach haklal, l'shanois afilu Gzeira shenechtama b'tabas HaMelech. Chiddush, that this is something we need to know. We have a koyach in Klal Yisrael that we can annul gzeiros that are already signed and sealed by Hashem, because when we get together, there is nothing more powerful than when we come together. B'koyach zeh yeshna b'klal Yisrael. We have this koyach. Sheyicholim b'koyach haklal, with the energy of the klal, we have the koyach to change afilu gzeira shenechtama b'tabas hamelech, a gzeira even if Hashem himself signed it. It's unbelievable. Hashem signs it, is above the whole world, nothing you can do. But there's another power that is above the whole world, to be ma'achid klal yisrael ba'aguda echas, that we can annihilate even a gzeira that Hashem himself signs and seals. Unbelievable. This was the Shak of Atayim and Esther Mordechai. Das Mordechai Mordechai said, "You don't want to go with Achashverosh? No problem. We're going to get help from somewhere else. Don't worry about it. We can take care of this." Even Lamaisa, it was signed and sealed with the Bas HaMelech. Mordechai felt that even though it's nechtam with the Bas HaMelech, there's a supernatural koyach that we spoke about last time of bitachon. I am so secure in Hashem, batech b'Hashem chesed yisay v'venu, that we can go ahead and break this with the koyach, with the weapon of bitachon. Like it says in Tehillim, Malakai, B'choba tachti Hashem, I have bitachon in you, alei voisha. Don't embarrass me. It means I'm not going to be embarrassed. Kasha Yehudi shari be'es tzara. When a Yid, and we have to know this for every single one of us, when we are in a eis tzara, who sam b'Hashem iftachli, and we place our comfort, our security, we're calm because we place it in God. Oz miskayim by alei voisha. Then we're going to see the fulfillment of alei voisha. We're not going to become embarrassed. Shenoisha b'koyach habitachon. You could be saved with the koyach habitachon. And sometimes, a person goes ahead and he has a problem and he calls his lawyer. So he's relying on Hashem and the lawyer, or he's relying on the lawyer and Hashem, or he's relying on the lawyer and Hashem. Please don't ruin it for me. Let the lawyer do his job. Sometimes when a person is sick and he relies on the doctor, and we have to do the ishtadlus. You're not allowed to stay home. You have to go to get the doctor. But if you place your bitachon in the doctor, you're limited by the ability of the doctor. But when you are you place your bitachon in Hashem, then even though the doctor is there and doing his job, then you're placing your power, your security in an unlimited power. And Hashem says, because you're relying on me, I will take extra super care of you. But it's very hard, because we think like the doctor has to heal us, and it's a metzias over here. It's not for Hashem to take care of. Of course we daven to Hashem, but rely on Hashem? Listen to these words. We have to remember these words. Elokai b'cha b'tachti, therefore alei voisha. We learn Pashup Shat Hashem, I'm placing my trust in you. Please don't let me be embarrassed. No. Because Elokai b'cha b'tachti, kasha Yehudi shari beis tzara, when we are in the eis tzara, in the time of tzara, and we place our bitachon in Hashem, then az mekayim by alei voisha. It's totally different than Pashup Shat. Pashup Pshat is, Hashem, I'm putting my trust in you. Please don't embarrass me. No, Pshat is, Hashem, I am trusting in you. And therefore, you'll see, alei voisha, because I am secure in God, He has all the power. And Hashem will make sure, alei voisha, oz miskayim boy, alei voisha shenoisha b'koyach habitachon. U'kaderech shachsu ha'chashmonaim v'mechamtom. That was exactly what happened with the Chashmonaim. They had this koyach habitachon, like we said, like it says in Magen Avram, that they said when they went out to Milchama, they said the Mizmar of Yoshev B'Seiser. It's the SHIUR of bitachon, it's the song of security. Oy mal Hashem, we say to Hashem Machsi, Tzudasi, like Hayaftach Boy, Ki Hu Yatzilchum Mipach Yakush, because Hashem is going to save us from all our problems. V'bitachon Hu Hoya HaNeshek Shalahem Milchama. Bitachon was their neshek, was their weapon when they went out to war. V'Sava Mordechai. And Mordechai thought, Shagam kan, nitin levatel esagzera b'koyach habitachon. Mordechai thought, I'll use that nuclear weapon of bitachon because it can bust through, hamafkia, it breaks through, afilu mechitzas shel barzel, even a wall of steel, an iron dome. This can break through the Iron Dome. That's the koyach of bitachon. That's what he thought. This was Mordechai's thinking. Mordechai's thinking was, I'm gonna have bitachon. I'm gonna place my security in Hashem. I have to do ishtadlus, so Esther, do me a favor, go in. You don't want to go in? No problem, because you are not part of the story. It's going to happen because I placed my bitachon in Hashem, and I'm using the nuclear power of bitachon as the leader of Klal Yisrael. That's all I need. Just like the Chashmonam, the leaders, all they needed was koyach bitachon. I don't need Klal Yisrael. But das Esther hoysa, das Esther hoysa. Esther said differently. Shekasha gzeira kvar nechtava b'tavas hamelech. Shuvi efshel levatla yidei bitachon b'vad. Esther said, yeah, you bring a raya from the Chashmonaim. The Gzeira by Chanukah was only down here. Hashem didn't sign off on that. So if Hashem didn't sign off on it, you could have bitachon in Hashem, and with the koyach of bitachon, Hashem will break the Gzeira down here. But once Hashem signs and seals the Gzeira, then you can't expect Hashem just with bitachon and relying on Him, because He's not on your side anymore, kaviyachol, so to speak. We need a koyach to fight Hashem's decision. The power of Achdus. It can overpower Hashem's decision. Hashem decides, I'm signing and sealed, this and this is going to happen. Lech knoises kol haYehudim, and say, no, we don't agree. And we can overrule Hashem and cause v'nahapachu that asher yishlotu haYehudim heimim b'seineim. Like the divrei of the Noam Elimelech. Sheyesh olam hanikra Klal Yisrael. There's a world called Klal Yisrael. It's a different world, an olam. For olam ahu kodesh kadashim. And this world is kodesh kadashim. Ein sham leichet v'lei pesha v'shum pega ein magia l'sham. There's a world of Klal Yisrael. Not individuals. Sometimes individuals we sin. But Klal Yisrael together is a separate world when the neshamas come together. And in that world it's super holy. There's no chet over there. There's no pesha. There's nothing, and nothing could stop that. V'zu hoysa atzas Esther. Esther's eitzah was shaderech hayichida shenishara, the only derech which is left in such a matzav of signed and sealed b'tabas hamelach malkei shel olam hakadosh baruch hu is leiknoises kol haYehudim uvekoyach klal Yisrael yuchlu levatel as hagzeira. Beautiful. We'll continue next time.